Picture the desolate Arabian desert. We're talking a vast, unforgiving expanse where the scorching sun literally bleaches the bones of the weak, and the pitch-black nights, well, they hide terrors untold. In this brutal landscape, survival isn't just about physical strength, it's about absolute primal fitness. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unraveling a really dark, atmospheric thriller straight from ancient Arabian lore. And it's a story that starts not with some massive clash of armies, but with the chilling silence of a single boy.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever heard of a fierce knight who is actually terrified by a child's gaze? It sounds kind of absurd, right? But our whole story centers around the legendary poet and fiercely battle-hardened knight, Abu Kabir al-Hudali. Now, despite his fearsome reputation, Abu Kabir harbored a deep, really unsettling secret. He was absolutely terrified of his own stepson. This boy, Thabit ibn Jabara, who you might know later as the legendary figure Ta'abbata Sharran, had this cold, enigmatic gaze. He was silent, he was tough, and he was completely devoid of that innocent vulnerability you'd normally expect from a kid. So this silent intimidation starts breeding this creeping, suffocating paranoia in the knight's home. Eventually, Abu Kabir just couldn't bear the tension anymore. He actually goes to his wife, the boy's own mother, and confesses his absolute dread. He whispers to her, "Woe to you, woman. I am terrified of this boy. My heart tells me evil is coming from him." And her response? It was remarkably cold. Instead of protecting her son, she colludes with her husband. She actually urges the knight to use his cunning to lure the boy out into the wasteland and just get rid of his looming shadow once and for all. So, a sinister conspiracy is born.
Section 1. A plot in the desert's heart.
So the trap is set. Abu Kabir approaches the boy with this warm, entirely deceptive smile, totally masking his dark intentions, and invites his stepson on a raiding expedition deep into the desert. The boy, who just thirsts for adventure like a true desert dweller, eagerly accepts. He has absolutely no idea he's walking straight into an execution. And the sheer cruelty of Abu Kabir's plan, it was in its cunning subtlety. As they head out into this desolate wasteland, the knight intentionally leaves behind every single drop of water and every morsel of food. This wasn't an accident. It was a calculated method of torture. He wanted the brutal elements of the desert to slowly drain the boy's formidable strength before he delivered the final blow. Let's look at the timeline of this grueling march. Day 1 is just a deep push into the unknown. But by day 2, the relentless, scorching sun is beating down on them, and the real fangs of severe hunger and burning thirst are starting to sink in. All the while, Abu Kabir is just watching, waiting for the boy to finally break. And then, as the thick, impenetrable darkness of the second night falls over the dunes, the stage is perfectly set. The trap is sprung. Section 2. Death Trap and Enemy's Fire. Out there in the pitch-black night, a faint glow appears in the distance. It's a fire. But let me tell you, this was no friendly hearth. Abu Kabir knew exactly whose territory they were in. That fire belonged to a ruthless band of outlaws, deadly enemies who showed zero mercy to strangers. They'd slaughter any uninvited guest on sight. So Abu Kabir leads the boys straight into the lion's den and enacts his cowardly three-step plan. First, he suddenly collapses, faking extreme exhaustion. Then, he turns to the starving boy and literally begs him to go to the fire and ask for a scrap of food to save their lives. Abu Kabir's real expectation here? He fully expects the two fierce bandits guarding that fire to tear the boy to pieces the second he steps into the light. But then, the absolute unthinkable happens. The boy approaches the fire, and sure enough, the two bandits spring at him like starving wolves. But they aren't hunting a helpless child, they've just cornered a force of nature. With this breathtaking feral alertness and lightning speed, the boy slays the first bandit instantly. Quicker than a blink, he strikes down the second one too. Totally unfazed, he calmly picks up the bread that was baking on the fire and just walks right back into the darkness. Abu Kabir is left standing there in absolute paralyzed shock. No way did he see that coming. The boy emerges from the shadows, perfectly unharmed, and tosses the bread right at his treacherous stepfather's feet. He stares straight through the night and delivers this chilling line. "Eat. May God never fill your belly." And here's the most terrifying part. Despite days of grueling starvation, the boy refuses to take a single bite himself. His innate intelligence and extreme caution are just on full display here. He knows something is wrong, and he will not let his guard down for a second. Abu Kabir's cunning plot has just spectacularly backfired, and it plunges the knight into absolute terror. Section 3. The Struggle of Vigilance in Darkness. Now, the dynamic has completely shifted. As they start their long journey back, the physical struggle against the desert is replaced by this slow, agonizing psychological warfare. For 3 straight nights, every shadow, every little sound in the dark becomes a battleground of paranoia. The boy guards their camp flawlessly, like an eagle watching its nest. But when it's the boy's turn to sleep, Abu Kabir is utterly paralyzed by his own cowardice. He is literally too terrified to close his eyes, dreading that the monster he tried to kill will wake up and end him in his sleep. Now, what's really interesting about this part of the story is how this sheer psychological terror peaks on the 4th night. The boy finally appears to fall into a deep sleep. Abu Kabir, hoping he might actually have a chance to strike, drops a small pebble to test him. The exact moment it hits the sand, the boy springs up, fully armed, demanding to know what that sound was. Abu Kabir stammers some excuse. A bit later, he tries again with a much smaller, quieter pebble. This time, the boy launches into the air like an arrow, eyes blazing, and delivers a blood-freezing threat. If he hears that sound again, he will sever the knight's neck on the spot. Talk about the ultimate reversal, right? Abu Kabir is so incredibly shaken by this feral reflex that he spends the entire remainder of the night standing guard over the sleeping boy. He is petrified. He just stands there, sweating in the freezing desert night, terrified that even a camel might shift its weight, make a noise, and wake the boy, who would instantly kill him without a second thought. The supposed mastermind has literally become a hostage to his own prey. Section 4. The Poem of Immortality. When morning finally breaks and they make it back safely to their tribe, something really profound shifts inside Abu Kabir. The crippling fear he felt towards his stepson is totally eclipsed by this compulsory, overwhelming admiration. He realizes he isn't dealing with a mere mortal, he's dealing with a legend. And so the knight does what poets do best: he immortalizes the very nightmare that almost broke him. Standing before his people, Abu Kabir recites a poem that gets etched into the golden records of Arabian history. He openly confesses his terror from that specific night, saying, "And if you toss a pebble at him, you see him leap at its sound." He takes his own moment of utter weakness and uses it to paint this awe-inspiring portrait of the boy's superhuman reflexes. In the poem, he compares the boy to al-akhyal. Now, in ancient Arabic poetry, this isn't just any bird. It's a creature of perpetual motion, a bird that never truly settles down, symbolizing an impossible standard of hypervigilance. Abu Kabir is essentially telling the world that this boy's senses are entirely disconnected from normal human limitations. His innate intelligence and caution make him as instinctual and reactive as the wild creatures of the sky. The poem just continues to build this breathtaking imagery. He describes the boy navigating the treacherous, jagged mountain passes with terrifying ease, noting, "You see him dive through the mountain passes like the swoop of Al-Ajdal." It's this beautiful, elevated, literary brushstroke that perfectly captures raw, untamed motion. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what happened at the bandits' fire. Al-Ajdal translates to the lethal falcon. It represents unstoppable speed and deadly precision. So Abu Kabir isn't just praising the boy's speed in general, he is recalling the exact terrifying efficiency with which Ta'abbata Sharran slaughtered those 2 heavily armed outlaws in the literal blink of an eye. But Abu Kabir saves the greatest confession for last. He doesn't immortalize the boy as a monster or some bloodthirsty killer. Instead, he publicly declares him the ultimate protector. He protects his companions in times of hardship, and when they settle, he is the refuge of the weak. That is a profound admission. The knight finally acknowledges that the terrifying force he tried to destroy is actually the very shield his people need to survive the harsh realities of the desert. Section 5. Wisdom, Courage Conquers Cunning. This all brings us to the profound historical wisdom embedded in this desert epic. You see, this isn't just a cool action story. It's a timeless philosophical reflection on the nature of strength, deception, and the total futility of malicious plotting against genuine, unyielding bravery. The story of Abu Kabir and Ta'abbata Sharran leaves us with a really powerful realization. Cowardly cunning, no matter how meticulously planned or deceptively executed it is, will always shatter when it strikes against true, raw courage. Abu Kabir learned the hard way that some men are simply not born to be led to their doom like sheep. When provoked, they become the doom itself. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. When you try to manipulate the world around you, are you really prepared for what pushes back? What happens when the trap you carefully set out in the dark catches a pure, unrelenting force of nature? The legend of Ta'abbata Sharran reminds us all that true power doesn't hide in the shadows of deceit. It thrives boldly in the light of absolute fearlessness. Thank you for joining me on this explainer. Keep exploring the incredible epics hidden in our history, and I'll catch you next time.